everyone. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Comics and Pop. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with Troy Cannon and Carlos Hidaraga. And today we're going to talk about the new DC movie, Black Adam, that just came out last weekend. It got killed by the critics, but the audience score was really high. Again, always a discrepancy between the two. And I'll turn it to you guys, but I really enjoyed it. I'll say more about it when it gets back to me. But I enjoyed it for the most part. There are little things, nitpicky things, but I thought it was fun. But let's start with Carlos this week.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
My Marvel hat?
That's with the Marvel hat on.
You know what? It was good. I liked it, man. I thought it was good. I mean, for the most part, it wasn't great. It wasn't, I don't think it was on the level of, Avengers movies and stuff like that, right? But it was definitely...
Well, Marvel doesn't make movies like Avengers movies anymore either.
Well, we have one coming out on November 11th. We'll see how verdict is still out. Everyone's that one actually the critics are loving. So we'll see what the deal is with that one. But I mean, overall, it was a fun movie, man. I mean, I love The Rock. First of all, Rock is one of my favorite actors, right? He's, the guy's charismatic and everything the guy does. He's a watchable person, right? He's somebody that no matter what kind of character he's playing, you enjoy him. He's just like an enjoyable person to watch on TV, and I'm, not being gay or anything like that. It's just, he's just an enjoyable person
and
to watch.
We're canceled. Okay.
And right. Not that there's anything wrong with that, obviously, right? But I mean, I've watched wrestling, since I was a kid. I enjoy wrestling. So The Rock, that's his roots. That's where he came from. He was like.
You are fading in and out of audio. I just got to say you this. Okay.
What's up?
You are fading in and out of audio.
Oh, I am?
Yeah.
Oh, man. But anyway, I guess we'll see how it comes out. But anyway, The Rock is probably became my favorite wrestler, of the modern era, I guess, because, obviously I grew up in, the 70s and 80s watching. So that was before his time. But, when he came around, he just threw everything away. And, and I love those movies. I love everything about him. But Black Adam. So Black Adam, obviously, we were introduced to the Justice Society, right? Which kind of like a take on the Justice League, I guess, right? But it was maybe like a smaller version and probably a lot maybe cooler, I guess, kind of. Even though Justice League has Superman and Batman and those guys, and the way that these people came out, it was really cool, right? We had Hawkman, we had Dr. Fate, Cyclone, and I forgot the other. Was it Captain Atom? I think it is
Adam Smasher.
Adam Smasher, right? And, all really cool characters. Dr. Fate was great. Pierce Brosnan did a fantastic job as Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate is kind of like DC's version of Doctor Strange, I guess, right? But kind of a version of him, but really cool. Did a great job. Hawkman, I think was amazing. The actor who played him was really cool. He kind of I guess he was kind of like the Batman. He's kind of like the Batman of the Justice Society, but with powers, right? With actual, physical powers. So he was really cool. If there's only one bad thing for me to say about this movie is that it had the DC curse of the villain. The DC just can't get the villain right for some reason in these movies. And to me, the villain in this movie was a little weak. Kind of like in Justice League, what was that? What was the villain?
Darkseid or Steppenwolf?
And no, the first one in Batman versus Superman.
Oh, Doomsday.
Doomsday. Like I thought that Doomsday they totally CGI'd and made him look horrible. Same thing with this villain. It could have been a lot better villain. It was to me the villain was kind of like the worst part of the whole movie. But other than that, everything else I enjoyed.
Troy, your initial thoughts?
When I try not to, especially when it's like a big movie like this, I try not to listen to the critics or see. I used to a couple years ago get early releases. I I don't get those now, but I used to get early releases. So the guys that are still getting those, they go get the early releases and they see them and they post early. I try to avoid all of that. People are sending me stuff that they think, this is what I think happened. And I try to avoid all of that because I wanted to see it and find out, if I personally liked it or if I'm influenced by somebody else. And all of the critics, because you can't avoid it, all of the critics were trashing it. It's like, it's garbage, it's no good. I tell you something, little story. The reason that I do the videos on the other thing is because a friend of mine who's a comic book enthusiast, he actually worked at the comic book store in St. Pete on 4th. I can't remember the name of it, but he worked there. And he was talking about a movie one day. And I said the movie was great. And he said the critics said it sucked. And I was like, the critics are always wrong. And he said, huh? Well, why don't you post about it? And I was like, you think I won't? And that's why I started doing it, because of him. And that's the same thing specifically with this movie. The critics were like, oh, it sucks. But I went to it and I was expecting it to be horrible, but I've got to get it under, I got to get it under my belt. I got to go see it. And I went and saw it. And that may have given it even more of a boost. I think it was, as far as comic book movies, it was meh. As far as DC movies, it was really good. I'd say that movie, the Black Adam, Dark Knight. It wasn't Dark Knight, but it falls like the next tier under Dark Knight, Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Avengers Endgame. I know that's saying a lot, but DC for the last couple of years has been giving us stringy chicken. And now they've come up with a great big steak dinner. Now, it's not the best. It's not, personally, I'd rather have lobster and shrimp, but they're giving me steak. And steak is better than, terrible chicken. I don't mind chicken, but terrible chicken is worse than good steak. And this movie was good steak. And I liked it. The Black Adam character, when they were talking about it, and The Rock was like, yeah, I'm going to be, we're changing the hierarchy of the DC universe. And that's another thing. He's been calling it the DC universe. It's supposed to be the DC, was it the DCE? DCEU, DCEU, the DC Extended Universe. They've officially dropped the E. Now it's just the DCU. Why? Because The Rock said so. So he's been doing this with the movie, and he said he's going to change the hierarchy and everything. And he said he wanted it to be Dirty Harry as a supervillain, as a superhero supervillain. And that was in the movie because he's watching the unknown stranger.
He's watching the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? He's
good and the bad. And he's got his hand to the side, and he's like, bam, 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 bam. And he remembered that. And when those guys were surrounding him, his hands to the side, and then he's like, with the lightning, even threw it over his shoulder. And I'm thinking, he said he was going to pay homage to Dirty Harry. But really, I guess he meant Clint Eastwood, because he did pay homage to Clint Eastwood in there. And I thought that was pretty cool. And he let you know that he's going to engage the Justice League and definitely Superman by being in that kid's room. And that kid had all of that Justice League stuff all over the place. And when he wakes up, he's like, bam, and he blows up Superman's head in the poster. And I'm like, okay, I see where you're going. I see this. I see where it is. I enjoyed it. I will say this, one last thing. Everybody across the internet loves Dr. Fate. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was like super, super great, but my buddies have been calling me on the phone from St. Pete and from wherever. Hey man, that Dr. Fate movie was great. I was like, it's Black Adam. And they're like, but Dr. Fate was so good. And you know what? I'm thinking maybe somehow I missed it because The Rock has had the opportunity to meet me twice. So I think,
You keep saying
I
that.
like his movies. I think I feel an obligation to see his movies because he shook my hand. He said, "Hey, guy, how's it?" He spoke to me twice. I think, it's an obligation to see his movies and enjoy them. So maybe I was paying too much attention to him and not Pierce Brosnan. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up, have myself a nice cold glass of orange juice. I'm going to drink it slow, turn that son of a gun sideways, and shove it straight up. I'm going to go to the movies and see Black Adam again.
See it again, huh? Okay. I was debating that too, but just curious, Troy, what do you think of Hulk Hogan, though?
Hulk Hogan, I've met him too, and I got to tell you a story about him when it airs off.
When we do that.
If I were a foot taller, a foot wider, and maybe my guns were 27-inch, I'd have probably beat the brakes off of Hulk Hogan when I met him in real life.
Maybe you never know. So, but here's what I got to say. All right, I enjoyed this movie. Same thing. I saw all the lousy reviews by the critics. I saw the same thing, and Carlos said this the thing, the audience score, and yeah, usually there is a discrepancy. This was a huge discrepancy. I think the critics thing gave it like in the 40s. The audience score was like up in the 90s. This was a huge discrepancy, and yeah, again, it's like the critics don't know what the people like, and that proves it. There, this was a fun movie. There were definitely things that I thought were silly in it. I don't think Dr. Fate is in the same level as Doctor Strange, even though everyone's like saying the two, they can keep comparing the two. It's like a watered down Doctor Strange. I loved all the heroes here, but again, there's no way Hawkman and Atom Smasher are competing against, Black Adam. There's no way. Their powers, and if looking at their powers, both of them would be like shredded to the side. They would just be wiped out. And they're like holding their own against these super powered, heroes in there. So I thought that was a little bit silly. I thought that, Dr. Fate and Cyclone could hold their own there because their powers could, counteract the other. But there's no way. The two of them are just like, they're people. They have like a little fanciness to them, but they're people, So you have to overlook that. But they were fun characters. I did love the Hawkman Atom Smasher dynamic. I enjoyed that a lot. This was just fun. I thought it was fun straight through. We won't talk about the end credit yet, the post credit, but yeah, The Rock made a good thing. The Rock also spoiled a lot of things ahead of time. I don't know if people watch his social media. He kept spoiling, dropping spoilers throughout like the week leading up to it. So a lot of the things were ruined by the star of the film, itself. So, but it was just, it was just good. I love seeing Pierce Brosnan in here. I love seeing The Rock in here. Everything, and just the cast. The cast was a fun cast. Again, like I agree with what Carlos said. The end villain was like, but you were able to overlook a lot of that just because of the fun of it. But it was just fun throughout. But the villain was just okay-ish to me. So what are further? So let's dive deeper into it now, Carlos.
So one thing about Hawkman, Hawkman, he does have a superpower. He's not like
he does, but he's not like
But no, right? But he's not like like he's like what do you call it? The Falcon. Like the Falcon is just a regular guy in a suit like Iron Man. Hawkman actually, what he wears gives him kind of powers and it makes him stronger.
But he's not on Black Adam level.
Well, he's not on Black. Well, that's why they had a team fighting him. There was 4 guys fighting Black Adam.
Yeah, but Black Adam's like punching the hell out of him. He's like boom, boom, holding.
Well, no, because right. Well, but he does have, he can he has the power to he can lift a car and throw it. He's strong. He's got like that kind of power. He's got Captain America type strength and stuff. So obviously Black Adam is on the level of Superman, right? But at the same time, Captain America, held his own against Thanos, 10 times, 100 times as strong as he is. So I kind of get that, But and I thought the Hawkman character, that the way they portrayed him, I thought it was a cool actor was good. But obviously a couple of things, I guess, a couple of things that, I mean, obviously we enjoyed the movie. A couple of things that were kind of weird to me is, one of them was Amanda was Waller, whatever, right?
Right.
She's supposed to be leading.
I was going to mention during the post-credit stuff. Yes.
Yeah, she's supposed to be leading the Suicide Squad and stuff, right? I guess she's a government agent, so it was. I didn't know that she had a connection to the Justice Society as well, which was kind of weird. I guess they made a movie on this. There is in the comic that I don't know about. Maybe there is.
I think they just threw her in.
Huh?
I think they just threw her in there.
Yeah, I think they just kind of threw her in there too. I guess to tie her into the whole, DC universe, whatever, right? Extended universe, DCU, whatever you want to call it. But I thought that was kind of weird, right? And I like the way they portrayed Black Adam, right? Like, he's saying he's a badass. He's a Punisher type hero, an anti-hero who it doesn't bother him to kill, right? All the other superheroes, the Supermans, the Batmans, the Hawkmans, they don't kill people, right? It's, they try to do everything that they can to not kill people. Shazam is like Punisher. He don't care if it's a bad guy, he'll kill him. They don't think twice about it. So
that's one of the things that I thought was weird here, by the way. Black Adam's a Shazam villain, and there was like no reference at all in there to them. I mean, just we had the side characters, but not Shazam. But go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
Right, but they also showed us the his origin, which came from the same people who created Shazam. So obviously, and he's got the big lightning at the so we know that there's a connection, right? But I think they didn't want to. They wanted it to be a Black Adam movie, you know what I mean, and not kind of like the Joker movie that you see young Batman and stuff. You don't see Batman at all in the movie. They don't mention really Batman at all. It's about the Joker. This is kind of like the way they made Shazam. They didn't want to associate him with Black Adam. They didn't want to associate it with Shazam, I think. Obviously we have a Shazam movie coming out soon, so eventually I don't know how they'll, because the thing is, the way they made Black Adam and stuff, and the Shazam movies are more like funny and and kiddie kind of, where Black Adam is not. He's a freaking killer, right? So I think they wanted to maybe disassociate the two, and obviously in the post-credit scene, bringing Superman, showing that Superman's the only guy who can, say, hey, listen, I can stop. You know what I mean? So kind of like to put him in check. So, or can he stop? We don't know. They just looked at each other and Rock raised his eyebrow and stuff. He was going to give him the rock. I thought he was going to give him the rock bottom or something. That would have been great. but yeah.
Troy?
First thing, Elvis Hodge. Every time I see that guy, he was an Invisible Man. He was in some other stuff. Every time I see him, the very first thing I think about is Big Mama's House. You remember Big Mama's House? And the scene where they're playing basketball, and Big Mama's like, who's been messing with my little friend? The two kids that Martin Lawrence in the Big Mama outfit plays basketball against, the one he says, you look like a damn bird. That's him as a kid. That's the same guy. So every time I see him, I'm looking at him and I'm like, he kind of does look like a bird. And now he's in a bird outfit. And I'm like, that's the universe is speaking. He is a bird now. I think, The Rock has a lot of stroke in Hollywood. And he was supposed to be originally the villain in the Shazam movie. And he didn't want to do that. Then, because he didn't want to show up, it's The Rock, he shows up and he takes a beating in his first movie. So he's like, yeah, I don't think we're going to do that. And then his wife signed Cavill, or his ex-wife now, signed Cavill, so she's his manager. So she's like, well, we got to get you guys together. So they went through a whole thing. The guy that was supposed to direct the movie got fired because he didn't want to do the things that Rock wanted. Rock wanted Cavill back in the red, blue, and orange outfit, not the black one. So they're going to erase the Snyderverse. They're getting rid of it because of Rock. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying the dude's got stroke. If he says, we're doing it this way, they're like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. we're going to change the name to the DC universe and not drop the E. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea. He's changing things, but I kind of feel it's for the better. This movie it feels like it's got some direction. You know, you would watch the other movies and you didn't know what was going on. In the comics, they mirror each other. This is for the audience who may not know. In the comic books, Marvel and DC mirror one another all the time. So in the movies, they mirror each other all the time. You know, you got Batman versus Superman. You had Captain America versus Iron Man. Then they heard they're going to bring some other people to there's going to be an Avengers movie. They're like, oh my God, just change it. It's Batman versus Superman, comma, Dawn of the Justice League. So they changed things, but it had absolutely no future story. It was just, let's make this movie. Let's try to make some money. Where's it going to lead to? Nobody cares about
Worry
that.
about that
We'll just
later.
make another movie. Yeah, we'll worry about that later. But The Rock, who I think has become a comic book guy, I'm not certain. I'd never heard of him being a comic book guy before, but he may have been his whole life. I don't know, but I watched Young Rock. I didn't see him in that TV show with no comic books. So he's a comic book guy now. And he's like, look, in the WWE, I watched Vince McMahon as a little kid taking people from other properties and bringing them into the WWE. They had a cage match in another station, and he brought it to the WWE. They had these matches, that match. He steals talent. He steals people. Now The Rock is in charge. And The Rock's like, you know what? We're going to make this a good movie because we're going to steal some crap. You know, we need a team. Doctor Strange is popular. Let's get Dr. Fate. Hey, they've got that guy over there. He's an African-American dude, and now he's got wings and he can fly. He's cool. Let's get one of those. We got that guy. Ant-Man, he can get big and small. Yeah, we need one of those. And he brought that in, and he created, it's basically the Avengers light. It's basically the Avengers light. Then he said, man, that thing over there happening in the Wakanda movies, Wakanda Forever. Yeah, let's do that. What's that? They've got a special metal that came from another planet that gives people superpowers. Well, we need some of that. Let's get some of that. Stick it in the dirt. And it's actually in the comic books, but he brought it forward. He's like, let's use that. And I can't blame him for doing it because, when I was a kid, they used to say, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. If something works, don't mess with it. If it works, don't fix it. So he saw what was working over there. And instead of saying, well, they're doing this, let's do a similar movie. He's saying, let's take these particular properties that are working, pull them in, and we'll take, it took 12 years for me to announce I was going to do Black Adam and then appear as Black Adam. So we're going to take our time and we're going to mold this into a functioning movie. Now, here's the catch. When they do an Avengers or a Spider-Man or something, they do the movie. And then it's a Batman movie. And it's Batman, he's been beating up the Joker. He's been talking to Alfred. He meets Commissioner Gordon. And then Alfred says, hey, man, are you going to go to that thing tonight? And he's like, oh, yeah. And he walks by a counter. And on the counter, you see 2 tickets for the, I forgot his name, Grayson, the Flying Graysons. And you're like, you look at, as comic book people, you're like, oh, I know where this is going. He's doing stuff like that. He's giving little hints and dropping things to let you know that there is a further story. DC hasn't really done that. They've just been banging out movies saying, look, pretty colors, lightning, somebody's got lasers, people are punching each other at super speed. It's cool, but this is the reason I think that Marvel was beating him. When you watch a Marvel movie, it leads to something. The whole Thanos thing, it had a beginning and an end. It was a whole Infinity Saga. It had a beginning and an end, and it gave little crumbs to lead to other stuff. And that's great. Rock is doing that now. He's like, look, we're going to make a movie, and it's going to lead to something else. So people have something to look forward to. Actually, you know what? Let's do that thing they do where at the end of the movie, give them a little snippet of something that's going to happen in the future. And they did that, and it was outstanding. The way that they did the movie. Now, the movie wasn't the best superhero movie, but he's laying the groundwork for better stuff.
Well,
And I did that.
here's one of the things that I did like, and you just hit upon it here. And The Rock has been saying this straight through right now. He's doing everything for the fans. And he knows what the fans want, instead of like all the most recent superhero properties was saying, we don't care about the fans. We don't care what the fans, we're going to give them what we want and they're going to like it.
Yeah.
The Rock knows, I know what the fans want, and I'm going to give them what they want, instead of all these other properties saying, too bad, this is it, like it. And that's it. The Rock is giving them what they want. And that's exactly it. This was, again, we keep going back to it. This was fun. He made everything fun. He gave them the scenes that they want to see. He gave them the action that they want to see, the heroes they want to see. Everything about it was going to be for the fans. And that's the big difference right now. And that's why the audience score is much different than what the critic score is. And probably if this was a Marvel movie, the critic score probably would have been higher too, because they do everything that Marvel puts out there. Oh yeah, we love it. So this is better than a lot of the, Carlos can say what he wants. This was better than a lot of the most recent Marvel properties too, on the TV series. But this, again, I agree with it. I agree with everything you're saying. The Rock knows what the fans want, and he gave them what they want. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, and that's what makes fans want to come to the thing. That's why you don't have all these fans going off and trashing the movie, saying that what are they doing this? What are they doing that for? It was fun for them, and that's what it should be all about. Let's talk a little bit about the post-credit thing. That's one of the things where it lost me a little bit, and like you said too, they were even fighting against bringing Henry Cavill back. They didn't even want to bring Henry Cavill back. The fans love Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he's to me, he's the best Superman since Christopher Reeve. Henry Cavill, he's been fantastic in the role, and they want to get rid of him. And The Rock is fighting to keep one of their main characters. So it was great seeing him. It was great seeing him in the movie again. It was a fun scene. I hated the aspect that Amanda Waller's involved with Superman. She's doing Suicide Squad with all these villains and things. Now she's controlling Superman. That took me a little bit out of it. That he's corresponding with her, and then all of a sudden she's in the end warning Black Adam, don't leave that area. There too. I didn't need her coming back in. I love her in Suicide Squad. I didn't need her doing in this and corresponding with Superman. They're two totally different things, two totally different, entities. So I didn't like that part, but I thought it was just fun to see Superman back. And we're all waiting for that Superman Black Adam fight now. We all want to see that fight. So go ahead. Yes.
A couple of things that one thing you mentioned. I just remember that. I mean, Amanda Waller obviously is tight, because I remember when I forgot which movie it was, but when Ben Affleck, Bruce Wayne, actually met with Amanda Waller. You remember, to get information from her and stuff about the superheroes and stuff. And he was like, hey, he told her, he warned her about the Suicide Squad. He was like, hey, listen, that might, whatever that side gig you got going on, you better control it, or we'll shut it down for you, whatever. He was talking about the Suicide Squad. So I kind of get her, you're right. But the way, I mean, if you're going to make the DC universe flow continuously, whatever, Amanda Waller in the last Suicide Squad, she was like she was the bad guy. They knocked her out.
She is a bad guy.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right.
So, right. So, I mean, right. It doesn't make sense for her to be, and then, also be, calling him Superman. You know what I mean? So I totally get what you're saying on that, Jonathan. I totally agree. So they have to kind of figure out what they want to do with her. I get it. She's a big, she's a major actress, and she's part of the universe, and you want to keep her around. But, just they got to kind of explain a little bit more her role, what her role is. Is she like is she the Captain Ross of DC universe, basically? You know what I mean? Is that what she's going to be? So I guess that's the case. They got to go a little bit deeper into that. As far as what was the other thing you were saying? Man, I forgot what I was going to say.
About the
as far as the movie being bad, you're right. This movie, the last good superhero movie to me that was made was Avengers Endgame. The ones after that, they were just okay. Master of Kung Fu, Black Widow. They were just okay movies. This was definitely better than those movies. I'll definitely agree with you on that because of, The Rock and the action and the fact that, they made it out. It wasn't it didn't have an agenda. It was just a fun movie to go watch and see The Rock kick ass, basically, right? There was no agenda behind it. So that was kind of cool.
There were small little agenda parts in there, but not like over the top, hitting you on the head like the others. So
agenda was what? What do you mean?
with The Rock, with the Black Adam.
Like what? I don't.
With they're talking about the invaders taking over another land, all that stuff. That they got a little bit part in there. They did manage to squeeze a little bit in there. Right.
That's history. That's normal. But well, yeah. I mean, it's whatever. That's.
But it's not like blatant, like the
right. Exactly. Right. Right. I mean, but anyway, but I definitely agree with you on that. So I definitely want to see how they're going to do it, and to me, Cavill is the best Superman. I think he's even better than Christopher Reeve. My person.
You take that back right this.
I think he's. I mean, the guy looks like Superman. He's built. He looks exactly like Superman.
So did Christopher Reeve.
Christopher Reeve was skinny. He was, he was just. I mean, he was a good-looking guy and everything, but and he was the original Superman, so I get it. I mean, it's like to me, Christopher Reeve is like Keaton. I look at Keaton. Like Keaton was a cool Batman and stuff, whatever, But Ben Affleck and but to me is a better fit for Batman. Big, strong, built, and that's how I.
Well, I'm going to let you deal with this because I can't talk to him when he's like this.
So I mean, Cavill. When I look at Cavill, I think Superman, right? So I definitely get it. It's great to have him back, and it's sad that The Rock had to kind of bring him back. It's like DC is so stupid that how could you let this guy go, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, DC is going to be in a little bit of a conundrum. Who's going to be the leader of DC now? Is it going to be Rock's Black Adam or is it going to be Cavill Superman? Because
they're coming at it from different sides now. One's
right, but from the makes of this movie, Black Adam is the man. He's gonna be he's gonna be the man of the DC universe. You know what I mean? So how I want to see how the relationship is gonna build out with Superman. You know what I mean? Because if they fight, obviously Superman can defeat Black Adam, but do they want to defeat Black Adam? You know what I mean? Do they want Black Adam to be the man of the, or is it going to be where it's going to be one of those fights where nobody wins, right? So
it's got to be that,
right? Because you can't defeat, if this movie is going to lead them into the next phase of what DC is going to be, right? You can't have The Rock be defeated. So it's going to be interesting.
I think Rock is going to join the Justice Society, and they're going to be bigger. I think the Justice Society, when the Avengers are fading out and they're going to bring in Young Avengers and A-Team and all of that stuff like that. They're going to bring in different versions of the Avengers. I think they're going to bring in Justice Society, and Adam will probably lead them since, Dr. Fate is probably not going to be in the next movie.
Well, they alluded to it at the end. Adam Smasher goes by and says, I think we worked pretty well together, right? They alluded to it.
And was that another thing that I wanted to say? We were talking about, the Rotten Tomatoes scores, right? How, critics don't know what they're talking about, right? And critics usually don't know what they're talking about, but aren't we critics?
But we're the good ones.
We're the good critics, right? We're kind of like critics, aren't we?
So the thing with Viola Davis, I can just see The Rock going to the movie theater, sitting down with his popcorn. See what I did there? Sitting down with his popcorn, and he's got a drink and everything, and he's watching a movie, and he looks at his wife and his girlfriend, because he's still with that girl. He's The Rock. So he's got his wife and his girlfriend, and he was like, so what movie is this? And they're like, it's Woman Warrior or Woman King. And he's like, oh man, wow, Viola Davis, she's incredible. I wish we could use her. And they're like, hey, Rock, she's in this universe. And he's like, really? Get her on the phone. I want to stick her in my movie. I gotta find a way that she's done this incredible movie. I gotta find a way to stick her in my movie. And they say, okay. how about this? Over at the other place, since you're stealing vibranium and everything else, over at the other place, they got this chick. She's a Russian chick, but she also works for AIM, and she also works for SHIELD, and she also works for the government. She works for a bunch of people, man. Her name is Contessa, and she's going around getting people. She's getting people for her team, and she's talking to other people too. We could do that. We could just make her just show up and talk to Superman. We could, if people ask, we'll tell them, hey, man, Soups, there's a guy that's over there he's probably as strong as you. Remember that guy that you had to break his neck because he came from your planet and he was tripping and he was trying to plant stuff on Earth? Well, this guy's worse. So Superman's like, okay, well, maybe I should talk to him. Yeah, go talk to him. Maybe she did something like that and influenced him. Because remember, she said her ability, when she was talking to that general, her ability is to make people do things against their own self-interest. That's her ability. It's not a superpower, but she does that all throughout Amanda Waller's thing. She's just made people do things against their own personal interest. So she probably put a bug in Superman's ear right after sending the JSA, after Shazam. She's like, they're not going to get it done. And she probably called Superman on the phone and was like, Clark, oh, I'm sorry, Superman, because she knows. And she's like, hey, why don't you do this for me? And she convinced him to go over there. And he's there and he realizes, wow, this guy really is powerful, because he was sitting, he's sitting in his living room watching TV, and he turns his head and uses that telescopic vision, and he's watching the fight from the other side of the planet. So he knows that Black Adam is beating the brakes off of everybody. So he's like, yeah, I probably better go over there and check that out. So now they've got their own Val. So now she can go around throughout the whole universe and she can be the one to connect them, because she'll go and she'll talk to somebody. They'll be like, hey, she was in that other movie, connection. And then she'll talk to somebody else and be like, hey, she was in that other movie, connection. And they'll do that and try to connect the dots for their universe using her. But I agree, she should strictly be with Suicide Squad.
Well, I mean, look, we're looking at superhero movies. None of them make sense as far as, why didn't these heroes come out when there was like such a big catastrophe going on in the other movies? So, why didn't the Inhumans come out, to help out, or the Eternals, to come out when the Thanos was around? Why, and then when we're going to get introduced to the X-Men and Fantastic Four, why didn't they come out, ahead of time? So, and why didn't Superman come out with Black Adam's going, fighting the Justice Society? Why didn't he come earlier? So we can't, it's always, you have to put like some little sense of disbelief into these things, suspend your belief, whatever, your disbelief. But it was still fun seeing. I did, like I said, I did not like the Amanda Waller part at the end, but she probably, like you said, put the little bug in there, like, hey, this guy's dangerous. You gotta go watch him. And again, I am looking forward to that fight scene. So in the next, whatever the movie they do next there. And we do have Shazam next. I wonder if they'll talk about it in Shazam.
Shazam is supposed to end up in the Justice League.
I can see that.
They showed the previews at the beginning of the movie. You guys see the previews for it? For Shazam?
I saw the preview for Shazam, yeah.
Yeah, I saw the preview for Shazam.
So what do we give this? What do we give this movie?
I would give it a solid 8. I think if they wouldn't have messed up the villain, if they would have had a better villain, not just just throw somebody in there so they can have an end fight, whatever, and the guy really doesn't make any sense. It's weird. He kind of looked like the son of Satan or something. It was weird. So
that CGI wasn't great, by the way.
Yeah, the CGI, it just didn't make sense. The villain was just whack. So if they would have had a good, solid villain, I think it would have been like a 9 or even better. Because up until that, I was enjoying the whole movie. And even after that, the aftercare, there was a lot of people who just actually went to this movie just so they could see the after credits scene. That was like their main reason to go to the movie. You know what I mean? So it was, to me, it was a solid 8. It was a good movie. I enjoyed I actually sat there and was watching it, and I wasn't like, oh, this until I saw the villain. But other than that, everything was cool. I thought all the heroes were good. Like I told you, all the Justice Society heroes were excellent. Black Adam was great. The comedic guys. The brother, the girl's brother. He was hilarious. He was funny. So they had that aspect in there, which was cool. And it wasn't, it wasn't cheesy. You know what I mean? It wasn't the superheroes who were being funny and trying to be. It was actually people who were thrown in to say the funny lines, and superheroes didn't have to try to, tap dance and be funny while fighting. You know what I mean? So that I enjoyed.
Troy, what do you give it?
Actually, I give it an 8 for different reasons, but an exact number. I give it an 8 also, but I give it an 8 because they didn't lean into the fact that the girlfriend, that the girl is supposed to become ISIS. And that's his like love interest. And they're going to basically eventually rule that country together. And the son, I can't remember his name. I want to say, well, his name was Atone or something like that. He had a God's name already, but the way that Shazam gave part of his power away, Adam gives the kid part of his power, which the son should have did. He shouldn't have gave him the whole thing. He should have just been like, here, Dad, take a sip of this. Get a little bit of that lightning in you. But I would have liked them to do that. They're clearly going to do that. They brought the girl in. It's like if there's a reporter, what's her name? Lois something or another. It's Lane. It's going to be Lane. So when they brought the girl in, I was like, that's ISIS. That's the chick. That's ISIS. But they didn't really lean into that. And also they didn't lean into the fact that Energang was there. And Energang had their super weapons and super spaceships. And all that stuff comes from Apocalypse. Darkseid basically funds them, gives them weapons and all kinds of crap. And they're supposed to try to take over the Earth, like Gangland style. They didn't say anything about that. And I was like, well,
did you say Gangland style?
Like Gundam style, yeah. This show is a lot funnier than people give it credit for.
Exactly.
Guy stopped me on the street the other day and said, your show is hilarious. And I said, you're right. And he says, but I'm not sure if I want to subscribe.
What?
Like, what are you kidding me? This is gold. We're giving you gold.
Exactly.
But the Energang, when the guy mentioned Energang, I was like, okay, here we go. It's got to lead into the dark side, It's like if you're watching a movie and it's a superhero movie, and this guy says, where do you work? I work at this factory. What do you do? The only thing we do is we make these little bat-shaped little pieces of metal. I threw one time and it came back to me. It was incredible. It was like a bat or a ring or something. And he's like, what's the name of the company? We work for Wayne Tech. You'd say, well, okay, well, they're introducing Batman clearly. When they said Energang, I was like, okay, all right, here we go. Darkseid. And they were like, nah. So I was like, what the all their weapons? I mean, they don't even say how these guys who appear to be Americans are in this foreign country riding these super space cycles powered by this magic rock. They don't even mention that. They just ride.
I don't think they were Americans, dude. I think they were like Australian or something.
Yeah,
they might have been Aussies. Yeah, that's like even worse. These are a bunch of kangaroo jacks are driving these super motorcycles. And they hurt Black Adam, and then he slaughtered everybody. But they hurt Black Adam, and I'm like, okay, well, you got to explain that. They were like, nah, they're Australians in this foreign country. Nah, okay, well, their stuff comes from Darkseid. They're like, nah, they skipped all of that, and I was like, that's gold. You should have did something, but maybe it's the other stuff that he's going to lean into later, I guess. But a solid 8.
I'm surprised they didn't introduce Mephisto.
And no Kang either. But
I'd like to see.
I'm the same as you guys. I was like thinking 7.5, 8, the same thing. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's one of the better superhero ones that I've seen lately, just because they made it fun. It thankfully got that direct She-Hulk out of my mind. But anyway, but
we still haven't done a She-Hulk episode. We still haven't done. Probably the reason that Marvel is alive and surviving right now is because of She-Hulk. and the greatness that was She-Hulk, and we still haven't done an episode on She-Hulk.
That's true, yes. But let us know what you guys think. If you like it, didn't like it, what you'd give it, and what you want to see in the future with Black Adam and the DCU. Again,
Comment She-Hulk, and we'll do a She-Hulk.
this has been Jonathan Rosen with Troy Cannon and Carlos Hidaraga. This has been Comics and Pop, and please subscribe.
Subscribe.